shorty, what your name is? Do you have a man? Who you came with?
Welcome back, y'all. Street Academy Podcast, where we keep one foot in the academy and one foot in the streetsies. And we back, and we back, and we back. So this is the second time that I'm doing that in front of an actual singer, right? I know y'all probably saw the last episode that we did with the husband and wife team, House of Fly. And I think I just realized it. Like I got more and more musicians coming on. I got my intro, and I'm doing this in front of musicians. I think I need to get in the booth. I think I need to add the paint on it.
Definitely
paint on it so that it sounds a little bit better if I'm gonna be singing in front of musicians. But anyway, welcome back, y'all, man. Street Academy Podcast. Appreciate y'all for joining in another episode. And I got a very close and personal friend of mine. I've been knowing this brother for a long time. He's actually a friend of the podcast. He's been on the podcast before. I want to say it was our first year, and we had a voting episode, and we were just talking about voting and the importance of voting. And we had some similar ideas around politics. We also have some differing ideas around politics, and so I thought it would be great to have that conversation. So that's an old episode. You can go and check that out. And anyway, I wanted to bring him back to talk about a totally different topic, which is what we're going to talk about today. And then I'm thinking maybe one day I'll have him on in a future episode to actually get to know him as a talent, because I've actually never. We were talking the other day, and I've never asked him certain questions around his talent, around his career as a singer, as a musician. And so I think I want to kind of I'm just now telling him this right here, so this might be shocking him. But I think I want to bring him back in a future episode, maybe when another EP drops or something like that, about his actual talent. He's an incredible singer, musician. We'll get into all of that. But this particular episode, we're going to talk about something different. So I want y'all to show love to my homeboy, my friend, my brother, Stephen Adetumbe. Woo!
Man, appreciate it, Doc. Man, you always have a way with introductions, man. So my hat's off to you. Wait till I get to do your introduction.
Oh, listen, whatever he said, don't believe it, because you lying.
No, because everybody knows I'm telling the truth. But we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that on the next podcast.
Look, he's lying. Everything he said, man. What's going on with you, my bro?
Man, I'm doing fantastic, brother. Yeah, I'm just out here living life, excited about the prospect of just being out here alive, man. Just making it happen.
I'm telling you, listen, bro. How was the summer, man? I know we wrapping up the summer.
Man, summer was cool.
Did you do any vacations, anything?
Not really. I just in head down mode. Of course, I got engaged over the summer.
Hey,
so
my man,
that was the biggest thing. I was working on that most of the
It takes all summer to prepare.
It did. It took me all summer, man. I'm still trying to recover, man, from
how does it feel making that transition, man, into that mode?
I mean, it's been a process, man. It's been a process,
Yeah.
Just because my single life was good. I had a great time in being single.
Yeah.
So I was single for a long time. You know this.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I'm happy with where I'm at, and like I said, I'm just ready to go, man. Just excited about living another day with something new.
Yeah, and you accomplished a lot as a single person, so I can just imagine where you're gonna be and what you're gonna accomplish, as transitioning into being betrothed and then being married. I could just imagine where you're gonna go in terms of that, man. Like, that's gonna be crazy, but because you did a lot, you know what I'm saying? You did a lot just in terms of what you were able to acquire and achieve certain goals and that sort of thing. So
yeah, it's true, but I find that being in a relationship has focused me a little bit.
Okay.
It has focused me.
Yeah.
Because it's just like I'm recognizing it's like, oh dang, I don't have any time, right? I'm like, my time is eating up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
once you've done your, and I did long distance for a little bit. You've done
Mhm.
your phone calls and everything, and it's like, oh, I just got, when I'm at my time, I gotta really make sure I'm on it.
That you on it. Got you.
But yeah, no, it is helpful having somebody that's kind of like a partner, and
Got you.
so it's cool, man. It's
Yeah.
all good.
And it's crazy because the way you move, and I'm similar in that way. You're an extrovert, you around the homies, you do your thing, but you're very private.
Yeah.
See, you're very, very private.
Yes.
You're a very private guy. A lot of people, they know you, but then they don't really. You let people know you just enough, and you like, all right, that's enough.
That's enough. I hear this, man. I wonder if y'all sized it just a little bit, but no, but I do just kind of I have an introvert, but I also have my my homebody mode, my hibernation mode.
Yeah.
And I'm just going in focused on my creating. It takes a lot of energy to create, man.
Yeah.
Like if you're coming out with something, like you gotta like if different things are coming in, there's like it's difficult. You gotta like focus. So so sometimes I just kind of go into my hibernation, to my cave,
man,
and try to get things done. And it takes a lot of energy from me because I'm easily distracted.
Yeah, I feel you, man.
Yeah.
I feel you. One of the things that, and I as a creative, one of the things I like about our conversations, and like I said, we were talking about this on the chat. Me, Steve, we got to chat with a couple other people, and we talk about everything from, I don't know, politics to music to whatever, the arts, Hollywood, popular culture, whatever. Usually, it typically it typically stays around kind of social issues, but then it'll kind of vary in that way. And but one of the things about you and I both is, while we may be what some people may consider, intellectuals or whatever, is we both have this creative side. And so, we both like to dabble in the arts, or, dabble in whatever, music, film. Well, I don't really do film, but I know we both like, movies.
You do very good film reviews.
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah. I respect that. I respect that.
I haven't done those in so long.
Yeah.
I haven't, and you know what? I need to do one for Nope, because I did see Nope.
Did you?
I did.
I've been hearing that I need to go see it, but I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard some folks be like, "Go see it," and then some of folks were just like, I hated it."
I mean,
it's wild.
I mean, you don't have to go. You don't have to rush to go see it. I didn't hate it. It just wasn't. I mean,
I got you.
I didn't have to see it on this opening weekend.
Okay, I
would have eventually. I think you should eventually see it, but you don't have to rush.
See, that's what I appreciate. I appreciate people that can give me. That's what I like about you. You can give me a harsh review.
Yeah.
Like, I can tell that when it comes to movies, you don't like wasting your time. Like it needs to be worth your. That's the kind of reviews I like.
Right.
I don't like reviews from people that like everything. Like they're just like. They just have time. Like just I spent 5 hours watching. Yeah, exactly. It's like, and I watched it. I'm like, no, I actually appreciate the fact that you know that when you watched a bad movie. Yeah. So that's the reason why I respect what you got to say.
Man, I appreciate it. Yeah, I think I should do a review on Nope, man. Yeah. It was I ain't gonna go in too deep into it now, but check it out whenever you get a chance. But you ain't gotta rush. You don't have to rush. But that's one of the things I like. And we have similar ways in which we look at films. Particularly ones around history and
yes.
And historicity and things like that. But then obviously you have you can look at it from like the cameras and the colors and all that other stuff I don't know nothing about. And so, but that's what I always love. And then also our conversations around history. And so, as you all know, there's a film that's coming up called The Woman King. And even before we get into that, I think we saw the Black Panther together, right?
I think so. With a bunch of other folks, right?
Yeah. With a bunch of other people. Yeah. So we all saw the Black Panther together. Obviously had think pieces talking about it, everything. And so I don't know why this is giving me that. Like this film, as it's rolling out, it may not have the big hoopla and everything around it, taking over the internet, hashtags all over the place, like the Black Panther, but it's giving me the same feeling. When you drop the trailer, when you put the trailer in the chat, and if I can figure out how to do it, I'll insert the trailer here, and then so that we can see it for those who haven't seen the trailer. But when I saw it, I was like, this is giving me the same feels. But then I also remember watching the Black Panther, loving it like everybody else did, but then I also had some critiques about it. I was certain parts I really feel right. And so
hold on, I just want to cut you off. Were those philosophical parts or were they narrative elements?
It was philosophical.
I knew it was philosophical. I knew it was philosophical.
It wasn't really.
I knew it was.
I'm not a big Marvel or DC person or anything like that. So I wasn't tripping off none of that. But it was more of the philosophy, all of that. But again, for the most part, I really did like the film. I think Black Panther was a great film. And so I'm seeing The Woman King. It's giving me all of this, but then it's also making me think, oh, am I going to be disappointed in certain parts? Why is this even important? Or will this finally be the Black film, right? That Black folks have been wanting, right? People have been saying, I'm tired of the slavery films. I'm tired of this. I know for me, I thought Black Panther was finally going to be that film that I'm going to say, yes, this is the film that's giving it to me 100%. And it fell short just a little bit. And so I'm looking at the previews for The Woman King, and I'm like, I wonder if this is gonna be that film. I wonder if I'm gonna finally get the full 100%.
I have so many thoughts of what you're saying right now. I have so
victorious
many.
Fighting against the man. We did it. Black people forever, liberation, whatever. Is it gonna give me that? And I don't know. So anyway, I got a lot to say. As I'm queuing up the questions, feel free to respond.
I mean, I don't know if this is intruding on our questions, but I just feel like that aspect of the Black film is really a big part of the problem. Okay. That like that you need the Black film. Like, I mean, just think about this for somebody like someone who's like, let's say somebody who's from who has, I don't know, samurais or ninjas in their cultural background. I don't think they're ever looking at a movie where it has ninjas in it and they're like, is this going to be the, I don't know, Japanese film, the manga film that's going to be, they just get however many films every year. And if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. I just think that really underscores just the lack of how scarce it is to get films like this that we're looking. Every film, it's like everyone is like so pressed that this film has to do this and has to be this and be that. And it's like, how many King Arthur films do we have every year? How many Viking films do we have every year? How many Roman films, Greek films? We have films like that all the time. They don't need a VBAC film. If this film, I like this aspect about it, I'll look at the next one. They will have something else that I like about it.
Gotcha.
I really feel that underscores the problem that we have. And I'm excited about this because what I'm excited about Woman King is not necessarily, I think there's a lot of things that are going to be great about it. There's some things about this film, and I don't know, at some point we'll get into it, that are like about like who they're depicting in the film that are kind of like challenging, like it's kind of like controversial, certainly things, like things about the kingdom that is the protagonist in the film. But what I like about it is the fact that it seems to be that we're getting these things are picking up, right? We're getting another Black Panther, and we're getting a film like this.
Gotcha.
And so more of that, I think, is what I like about it, is that fact that we're getting some variety. I mean, Black Panther was like a seismic event. I mean, literally, it was like a seismic event in the Black culture. Yeah.
I mean, we're still doing this.
We're still exactly.
It's cemented for sure.
Right. But I mean, think about it. Like, I mean, that, like Star Wars, you know, all the other Marvel movies. I mean, these are there's no Marvel movie that's coming out or any like Transformers that's like a seismic event for someone else, you know, for other, because we get so much of that stuff all the time. So yeah, that's just kind of my whole thing on that.
So then it sounds like what you're saying is the problem is that we're looking for that one, or I'm looking for that one to give me my 100% satisfaction. And because we don't have as many, and we don't know when the next one is going to come out. We don't know when they're going to tell a Mansa Musa story.
Exactly.
We don't know when they're going to tell, you know, a story of ancient, like a real story. We don't know when they're going to. So because we don't know if they're going to tell a Kwame Nkrumah story.
Right.
It's going to be more modern.
Right.
We don't know.
Right.
So we happy with Black Panther and Woman.
Right.
And I like how you said, you know, the Woman King, and then we got a Black Panther 2 coming out.
Right.
So hopefully this is the start of more consistent.
Right.
Because the fact is, Steve, we've had so many movies. We've had so many Black movies, and we're appreciative of the telling the Black story, the African American story. But I think we're just at a place in our overall development as African Americans, as African people, that we desire now this connection to Africa. And we want, like, just like white folks and white Americans can watch stories of ancient Rome and ancient Greece, and they know that they're not originally from here. They may be from Italy or Ireland or whatever. So they can watch Braveheart, they can watch Troy. And so we're like, where can we go past the cotton fields?
Yes.
Where can we go past the lynching tree to connect us to something greater?
Right.
And so, and many of us don't know exactly where we're from,
right,
in you know, in terms of what country, but at least we can take it back to a continent.
Right.
Connect to Dahomey or connect to Wakanda or connect to wherever, until we all figure out exactly where we're from. And so I think I definitely feel what you're saying, in that we've been saying that for a while. We need more ancient African stories, and there's so much.
Yeah, there's so much.
So many.
Oh my gosh.
Interesting.
Right. You know, so much. It's like so much. I mean, I was just even reading about, like, doing a little bit of reading about, you know, the kingdom of Dahomey, and I mean the narratives that are in there. Just like reading about that, I was like, this is crazy. Like, this is crazy. And you're learning about all these different kingdoms, the Oyo, the Ashanti. I'm like, what? This is so wild. And bro, I've gotten I would say I've gotten a great education. I've gone to HBCUs. I've gone to all Black schools. I have an African father. I have so many different things, and I'm learning all these things for the first time. For the first time, I'm learning. I'm like, this is so wild. This is so wild. And I think it just needs to be underscored that when we live in a society that's releasing a King Arthur film every other day, when we live in a society that's releasing however many Viking films and series, when we live in a society where we see all the European lore, Lord of the Rings, Lion, Rich, and the Wardrobe, you know, Game of Thrones, all the different Disney movies with all the different, like, when you live in that, those things create depth for the people groups that they're speaking about. They're giving you a sense that there's history, that there are values, that there are all kinds of things that make up a person. And so when you're living in a society where that depth is being created for all these communities, but then you don't have that, and it's very shallow. What does that say about how you look at yourself and how other people look at you? Right? Because all these things give you, they give you like context. They give you a sense of significance. They give you a sense of where you belong, what you're entitled to. And these things can affect, like, your sense of initiative, what you're going to do, where you're going to go, who you believe you are, all of these, and how other people think about you, what role you play. Because when you have that rich that rich context, that rich story that, oh, this person is, you look at someone walking down the street and you could see the Romans, the Viking, 300, and you can see all these different things in that person. It's not just, they're also the Westerner. They also have the Wild Wild West and whatever other things, from the past. They had all that stuff too. They're the Pilgrims. They have that, but they have such a long, deep history, that goes back. And I think that we underplay. And I think the thing is not only underplay, like it's just not said. We haven't talked about the consequences of not having that. I think the fact that that's important is underscored by the fact that they keep coming out with this stuff every year.
Right.
Like the people can't keep consuming it. Knights of the Shining, like whatever it is, Three Musketeers. They keep coming out with this stuff all the time because clearly it's important that people need that. They're fed by it.
Right.
But the fact that you have a whole people group, that made up a significant part of what it means to be in America, built this country, a significant people that built this country, and you don't have any of that depth.
Yeah.
You don't have any of that background.
Yeah.
What are the consequences of that? And I don't know. I'm gonna go off on a roll right now, a tangent, but I have a suspicion. You tell me what you think about this. But I have a suspicion that there's sometimes a tendency among Black people, certain Black people, to latch themselves onto groups and say this is the true Black people that have that depth. And you can tell me what you think about that theory, but I think that there are certain groups that will sometimes latch ourselves onto. I don't know if you're catching on to anything I'm saying. We'll say this group that has a long story is a true. We really descended from this.
Oh, got you. Does
that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, and if we're not speaking ill of
anything.
But you have, just to be real, we got groups that say, well, we're the real Israelites.
We're
the real Jews.
Then real Native Americans.
Yeah, we're the real Native Americans.
Right.
ADOS, African descendants of slaves. And then I remember I met this one dude, and he was like, this was years ago, and he was African American, but he was like, he wasn't from Africa at all. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, no, like none of my family's from Africa. And I was like, so you don't want to be called, I was like, I only want to be called an American because I did my history, and all the way back, none of my, we go back from being, I guess, Native Americans. And then from being Native Americans, none of his family had ever been on the continent. And I was like, I ain't never in my life met a Black person who ever did their family history all the way back to what? I think the Native Americans been here, 12,000, 20,000,
a lot of years.
All the way back 15,000 years.
Yeah, right.
That none of your family members have. I doubt that. Very. Right. But I think he just really didn't want to be connected to Africa.
Right. But why would you? Why would you want to be when there's no history? All you see is some images of someone starving.
Right.
People running around with ropes up their behind. Right. And it's like, why would you want? There's no history there. There's no depth. It's not cool. It's not like, why would I want to be connected to that?
Yeah. That's actually a good point. Yeah. And and it's interesting because when you see folks saying, well, we're the real Hebrews, we're the real Israelites, we're the real this or the real that. And for me, I've always looked at it as along the lines of like Runoko Rashidi's work, where he talks about the African presence all over. Right, the African presence in Asia, the African presence in Europe, the African presence in the Caribbean, etc. And I kind of always looked at it as, well, if you go back far enough, yes, you will find that the originals in many of these groups were African people, Black people, or people with dark skin.
Like 6,000 years back, because everybody's from Africa. Like literally, everybody came from Africa.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't doubt that.
Right.
But I do. But now thinking about, and it's also interesting because even if we don't want to think that deep,
right.
I was watching an episode of the Cosby Show, and it made me think of Wu-Tang. And I love Wu-Tang, everything. I can't wait till the series come back on Hulu. But I always wondered, like, why did these dudes attach themselves to this Chinese culture so hard.
It was fire though. It was fire.
It was fire.
It was fire.
No, I can't even lie. The art of chess boxing and all of that. I'm like, why do these dudes want the Chinese so bad?
Yeah. I mean, it's dope though. I mean, that's because that culture, as it's depicted, is very dope. It's like the ninja, the thing, the swords, and all the stuff. It was fire. Growing up, looking at all that stuff. It has
an origin story. It goes back so far. Yeah, that's something they can be proud of. You know what I'm saying? I've always I was even thinking about I was watching something about hip hop, and I remember in the Nas Ether verse, Nas said Rockefeller died of AIDS. That was the end of his chapter, and that's the guy y'all chose to name your company after. You got this hip hop group when he was battling Jay-Z, and you got this hip hop group naming they company after this white man, right? And it's kind of like, but I think it goes to your point. Black folks, even across the diaspora, are constantly trying to connect ourselves to something greater, whether it be, something kind of indirectly related to Africa, or even like a totally different religion or whatever. We're trying to connect
something with some depth, something with some significance, something with, like. You think about the Jew. How much do we read about the Jew? If you're Christian, you're sharing about all these stories that go back how far, all the different figures, all the different. You're familiar with them, you know them, and you have this for so many different cultures. Right. And the thing is, it's not that the stories aren't there. It's just that they haven't been wrapped up in formats where the general public can consume them. Like we have documentaries and you have the history books. But it's literally like, who's looking at? No one's looking at that. And it's like, if you are reading about that, and you're talking about it, it's like, well, I remember Manson. It's kind of like, all right, where's your incense? Where's all your different colored rocks and your Ashanti cloth? It's like you're extra, like we're talking about all that history. No one wants to hear all that stuff.
They're gonna say you a Hotep.
Hotep, exactly. It doesn't. You got to put it in a format that's consumable, like cartoons, movies. Lore. There's so many different, like just. Fables, different things that we could talk about, that could be depicted, and we haven't been getting that. So I think that's the reason why I'm excited about this film. Is like, regardless of, and there are some things about it that is like suspect about this kingdom. I hope we'll get into that, but I'm happy that we're telling about it because, I think we were talking about Game of Thrones in our chat and how how people were like, you watch the first episode and you see all that corruption that like, it's like so wild.
When y'all was telling me, I'm like, I've never watched Game of Thrones.
Right.
And when y'all was telling me some of that shit, I was like, bro, I don't think I was
wild. It's wild. No, it's really wild. But people are celebrating these characters. And so I'm like, well, let's have some villains. I mean, the thing is that it's showing the scope of humanity. And let's have some of that with some African folks, with some Black folks. And I love, I'm sorry we're going to get into this, but I love the fact that we're using people from across the diaspora to really tell this story, so all of us can kind of connect with that story and see ourselves and see our culture in these stories. And I think that that's important.
Well, so that's what I was going to ask now. So, and I can't remember if I talked about, I'm pretty sure I talked about this with someone else talking about films and movies on an episode, but we mentioned Cynthia Erivo, right? And the movie Harriet. I thought the movie Harriet, I thought it was good.
It was okay. Right? It was okay. It wasn't earth shattering.
Right. It wasn't earth shattering. And I feel like Harriet Tubman deserves a movie that is I need to feel this.
Right.
And Cynthia Erivo didn't give me that. Right. She didn't give it to me. I'm proud of my British brothers. I love Daniel Kaluuya. I think he's dope. I'm proud of a lot of my British brothers and sisters for getting on, doing their thing. It just helps others. But I have yet to see one of those films, and oftentimes they get cast in those roles about African-American history.
Right.
And I don't think that I've yet seen one where they have been cast in the role and it's done for me what Denzel did with Malcolm X, what Angela Bassett did with Tina Turner, what Jamie Foxx did with Ray. And the thing is, all of those are African Americans who played African Americans. And so even though while Jamie and Ray had similar paths, so there was a story there, Denzel and Malcolm as well, Denzel being from New York. So there's certain things that you can embody when you are part of that subset of the African diaspora. Even though these people may not have had an exact understanding or an exact or their lives may not have been an exact reflection of the people they played. When you read the script and you see where Ray Charles was dealing with racism, or Ray Charles was dealing with constant rejection, Jamie Foxx can say, well, I've never been blind, but I can go back to being from Texas and this story and that story.
There are a lot more things that they can kind of pull from their experience
from those
to kind of paint that picture.
Yes, because y'all have a same identity, right? A very similar identity. Same way with Denzel, when Denzel, played Malcolm X, and also when he played Frank Lucas, he talked about how he pulled from his own life to be able to tell these stories. And so I think it's important to be from that subset when you're telling these. So I think that does something as it translates from the person and the art to the consumer. And then some people may say, and I'm gonna say a lot, but then I'm gonna definitely go to you. And then some people say, now I think about when Daniel Day-Lewis played Lincoln. Right? I can't even lie.
Yeah, right.
He killed that role.
He killed that role. Right.
Daniel Day-Lewis killed that joint.
Yeah, he did.
I don't know how he tapped into Lincoln the way that he did, but he killed that role.
Yeah.
But I just don't see it happening that much. And then even in the reverse, right? When I see African Americans play Mandela, you know what I'm saying? When I see African Americans play role now, and I think I talked about this in the chat. When Forrest Whitaker played Idi Amin, I thought he did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, it can be done.
I thought he did but again, that's me. I wonder what Ugandans thought about that. Right? I wonder what South Africans thought about that.
Yeah.
So it's like, now looking at Viola Davis, I love the sister. I think she should have played Harriet Tubman personally. I love Viola Davis. I'm gonna stand like everybody else. But I'm wondering, what are these people going to think when they see this African-American woman from Rhode Island, trying to portray their culture, right?
Well, I don't know, boss. Because why are we picking? I think one thing is why would we pick on Viola Davis for first and foremost? Why would we pick? Because literally nobody on the cast is from that area. Nobody.
Okay.
Right. So there's some of them, a lot of them are British. The actors are from Great Britain. And I looked at the cast, and a lot of the rest of them are like from South Africa. There's almost nobody from literally that specific, pretty much nobody in the main headlines are from that specific area. Gotcha. So I think it's worth examining if people want to pick on Viola Davis, why would they pick on her versus anybody else? So I think that would be the first thing that I would say. I think the next thing I would say to what you say is that most like biopics are hard. Most of them, like whether you're from, like if you're literally from the same place, like from the same, most, like I'd say 6 or 7 out of 10 times, it's not going to be great, right? Like, I mean, I think there's been a Biggie movie, a Tupac movie. I think even with Viola Davis, there were people are getting on her the other day for her depiction of Michelle Obama. Like it was like people ragging on her. Yeah. So I mean, it's like, it's hard. Like it's hard to do biopics. And there's like, every once in a while you catch that little piece that's like gold. And it's just something about either that character. And I think in a lot of cases, you're maybe more likely to find that magical connection between a person and like an actor and the character they're portraying if they have a similar background. Right. But I think there are other factors that can feed into that. And I think like maybe Daniel Day-Lewis probably had something magical that from his background that connected with that character that really made it that magic. And the same thing you're saying with Forrest Whitaker and Idi Amin. Like I think there are things that people may have in their background that just kind of like, okay, like they can really channel this because maybe it's something from their history or something they went through that allows them to connect with that person from history and really bring something special out. So that's my suspicion. I'm a little less likely to say that there's a hard, fast rule about who needs to play who. But yeah, no, I think as far as the characters in there, they're from everywhere. You know, none of them are from. I think it's worth saying that the fact that most of the actors that I saw, a lot of them were from South Africa. There's a few American actors, a few British actors, and you know, those are all very distinct. Like if you're talking about in the African continent, it's like saying, you know, we're playing a French role, and there's someone from Germany, and there's someone from you know, Great Britain, and there's somebody from Norway. They're very distinct, right? Those are distinct things. But you'll watch a film about French or about Irish or something, and they'll have people from all over, you know, from all over Europe playing those. And so I think that that's what's going on. And I think it's good. The reason why I like it is because in those stories, we're now able to see in these historical stories, we're able to see reflections of ourselves, right? Things that we value in our culture, things that make us who we are. We're able to see that reflected in the movie. We're able to see that celebrated. We're able to see that glorified in some way and say, wow, this is really cool. This is really dope. This makes me who I am. And you need people that that represent you on the screen to really help you make that connection. And so I think that's I'm happy that Viola Davis. I think for one, it's going to be a big draw because she's on there, and she looks super badass. Yeah, you know, her mean mug is like, she has a badass mean mug. Yeah, right? yeah. I mean, so it's like, it looks dope. So I think that that's going to be a good draw, and I'm excited about it. I mean, I'm sure you'll find somebody somewhere that's going to say something, and I just think that we got to get better at just not letting everybody just ruin something that's making us happy. Right? But,
agree with you on that. Yeah. I definitely agree with you on that. Like I'll be critical and that sort of thing, but that's not going to stop me from seeing the movie, enjoying the movie, you know, and
you're not taking my joy, devil.
For sure. And the thing about it, and like you said, this is a business, and you need to get somebody who's going to, you know, who you can draw, right? You need to, and I don't know of any superstar actors or actresses from the homie. So
no, literally, we don't know. I don't know any. I don't know any. So, and guess what? There's none in there. There's people from West African area, but none from at least none of the main headline actors. Yeah.
Got you. Yeah. Now what? So people, I have been hearing people, Nick Cannon and others saying, I think Denzel even said it, that we do need to have more stories from ancient Africa, pre-slavery.
I'm so glad they're saying that.
You know, we have enough slaves, so we got enough civil rights, we're good. But honestly, I don't know. I mean, I don't mind those stories. I was sad when Underground went off. I think it was with I forgot what network it was on, and I think they're still trying to get it picked up where they were telling the story of the Underground. I still like Underground. I've been meaning to watch the story on Emmett Till. I think that came out earlier this year.
Boy, that thing looks the trailer you're talking about. That
I think it was another one though.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was another one earlier that came out, but yeah, I know it's one coming out.
You're coming out, yeah. That joint looks heavy, bro.
It looks heavy.
That looks heavy.
It looks heavy. But again, I can consume Black content, African American content forever. Like I'm good on that. So I don't mind seeing movies, depictions, depending on how it's portrayed, stories about slavery or about Jim Crow or about our struggle or about our triumphs or our tragedies or different things related to our story. Do you think that we've had enough? Do you think that we need, all right, we got a lot of these stories, we're good, we don't want any more, we only want the Black epics? Or do you think there is still room to tell a Marcus Garvey story, another Black Panther story, an Angela Davis story, a Frederick Douglass story? You know, is there still room to tell a Reconstruction story?
Yeah.
You know, Or do you think
we don't have a Frederick Douglass one?
We don't have a Frederick Douglass.
Oh my gosh, that is a crime.
You know, we don't have a Frederick Douglass story. Yeah. We don't. I mean, there's so many stories within the African American tradition that we still haven't told yet. You know what I'm saying? We don't have a Black Wall Street story.
Yeah,
would be crazy.
Yeah. We got Rosewood, which was
Rosewood, kind of, but I mean, like the how immaculate Black Wall Street was.
Yeah, that could be incredible to just like
it would
just be the visuals for that.
Captured.
Yeah,
the visuals will be crazy.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I guess my question to you is, do you think we need to stop making those stories and only focus on the Black epics, or do you think that there's room to continue to tell those stories as well?
I don't know, bro. I'm kind of in your camp, man.
Okay.
I actually find those historical stories, I find them helpful. I think they've been a huge part. They've literally played a very big role in my development, my consciousness. I love them. I love those stories. And some of them are hard to consume. And I have to admit, when I saw that Emmett Till, I was like, bruh, I didn't know. I was like, man, that one, I'll have to be in the right state of mind to go watch that one, because the Emmett Till is just a really, really tough one to swallow. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But I liked Amistad, Glory, 12 Years a Slave, Roots, all of these things, like the way I like to put it, one way I'd put it is that if you see, I think one thing that this has done for me is that if you see somebody and you see them walking and you see that they have their clothes is all ripped up, they got some bruises, they're walking with a little bit of a limp, and you're like, whoa, and they look like they haven't taken a shower in days. You're like, wow, that person, what's wrong with them? Why are they not taking care of themselves? Right. But then you hear their story. They came in, they fought through lions, they beat back a lion, they were climbing, they slept through, they were on a mountain, they climbed a mountain, and they came all this way, they were kidnapped, and they brought themselves all the way back, and they're strong, and they're still rocking, they're still going. You're like, whoa, that dude is like, he's a boss. No, she's a boss to come through all of that. And, they got some scratches. Of course they got a little bit of a limp, but that person right there, that's a boss. And these stories have helped me to see, contextualize Black people. Seeing these stories have allowed me to see contextualize Black people as people who have come through a struggle, who are strong. Because we have emphasized all the time the bruises, the nicks, the scratches, the fact that, someone has a limp. We see that all the time on the evening news and in, stories, whatever it is. We always are made conscious of that. But then when you see that you have that background of this is what these people have come through, this is what they've endured. It allows you to say, yeah, there's some nicks, there's some scratches, there's some things that are still needing healing. But that's a strong people. That's a people who have come through a lot that I can learn something from, right? Because I have that context, and I feel like those stories do that for me. Now, I am craving variety, and I think that we need depth because we've only gotten those stories, and I think it also does a disservice because we're only getting stories from a time. It's almost like we can't tell our stories unless there's someone, from Europe or somewhere else involved, right? It's like our story it always depends on that, right? It's always, and I would like to just have some stories where, even with the woman king, that's still an element of it, right? It's still, it's like you can't tell it doesn't begin until a ship from Europe comes in and starts the story.
That's a good point. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
So I do think that we definitely 100% need some depth and some variety, and it doesn't all need to be those. But I think, even if you're tired of some of those stories, the younger generation still need to see.
That's true.
They need their own things to tell them that, look, you have struggles, but you're strong. You've come through. This is who your people have come through. This is what they've experienced and what they've come through.
No, I think that's a really good point. Like, we grew up watching Queen
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, Roots
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, like you said, 12 Years a Slave, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
Star, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like all these different stories. But these young people are looking at those. That's like,
oh yeah,
that's like to the 60s for us.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
So you're right. They do need their own stories to kind of latch on to and, you know, be able to say, okay, I understand the African American story and, you know, the context of race, you know, using this to kind of help, you know, create that. So no, I definitely agree with you. And, you know, like I said, I mean, there's so many other parts of our African American tradition that have not been, you know, that have not been told, unless it's through like you said, like a documentary or something. But most people are probably not going to watch those. But there's so many things that can be, so many people, so many characters, so many, you know, we could just go into so much detail with. So I definitely agree with you on that. Another thing about the Woman King too is, and I don't know, maybe you could remind me if I'm missing it, but I've never seen a European epic. You know, you talked about King Arthur, you talked about the Musketeers and all of them, but all of those told the story of victory through the lens of the white man, European man.
Yeah.
And probably because Europe is, you know, in general, has largely patriarchal society, right? But so I've never really seen one of those epics where the woman is the protagonist, where the woman is the victor, where the woman leads the nation.
They have a lot of European Queen movies.
Well, now, so I was gonna say Queen, but even in the movie Queen with what's the
No, I'm just talking about European queens. They're just like a lot of things with like, you know, powerful queens. There's not as many. I agree. There's not as many.
I don't think I've ever seen one where the queen is like the victor, like fighting for her country, like actually on the front lines fighting for her country, not like kind of.
Yeah, I heard you saying.
But like, I mean, like she's a real victor. You know what I'm saying? Like you're rooting. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
There was the one with this. I can't remember the chick's name. She had like these visions, like she was like getting these visions, and she led like some, I don't remember who it was, if it was the Irish or like one of those sects of you know, in Great Britain. She like led them to several victories, and they burned her for like witchcraft. I think I remember her name, but you know what I'm saying? It was that they did a movie about that. You know, they did a movie that she was getting these seances or something, and she was telling them that they needed to go fight. And
I never heard that.
Yeah. I think it may have been. Is it Scottish or? But yeah, I think in general it's more the exception rather than rule. But I get what you're saying.
Got you. But yeah, but I was saying that because I like the fact that in the very few epics, right, African epics, Black epics that we have, Black classics, this one is showing the leadership, the victoriousness,
the strength
of a woman, strength of a woman, of an African woman, So and I think that is a reflection of, even within Africa, and Africa's made up of a bunch of patriarchal societies, there is a certain appreciation and a certain reverence, historically speaking, for the woman that I don't really see in a lot of European stories and a lot of European culture. There's a, you know, reason
or any of the world cultures a lot of times.
I think there's a much greater appreciation for the woman in a lot of African stories and a lot of African culture than there is in others. And so that's something I appreciate, even if we want to look at this from an intersectional approach, that you do have the woman, you know, being seen as the leader, as the victor.
And as being, that, you know, that I think is what's so beautiful about that is, you know, that why I'm so happy about that story is that it again translates to our present. It has connections to our present experience, you know, to things, parallels, because Black women have had to be strong they've had to be strong for us in various settings. And I'm not trying to say anything that, like, because Black men have had to be strong too, but Black women have had to endure something unique in their story, since they've left the continent of Africa, or even being in Africa from colonialism and whatnot. So Black women have played an important role, and I think that is that's why I think this story, a very useful aspect of the story, is that it's telling us something that we can find parallels to in our present experience, and creates depth for that thing that we're seeing in our present experience. So yeah, I totally agree. It's something, and even the Black Panther, I think, did a very good job
for sure.
Of showing that, it's not just, it wasn't the damsel in distress, that you had the women taking the initiative to hold up, to keep things going even in that first movie. So I think that was also something that, my man, what's my man's name? The director,
Ryan
Coogler. Yeah, Ryan Coogler, genius, by the way, was so smart to work that in there.
Yeah.
So
let me see. Okay. So, to come back, I guess to kind of wrap it up too.
Yeah.
When we're thinking about these films, the significance of these films, movies that have come out before and that have told the African-American story, the African story. And that's another thing too. I don't know if I've seen a whole lot of films depicting other parts of the diaspora too. I didn't even think about that, but that's kind of coming to me right now. I don't know if I've seen a lot of films about Caribbean heroes. You know what I mean? We have yet to have a Bob Marley film. Are you serious?
Yeah, that's wild.
Are you for real?
Yeah, you're right. No Bob Marley film. Yeah, it's wild.
I haven't seen a Bob Marley film. I haven't seen, there's so many other people across the I'm pretty sure Brazil. Yeah. I mean, we can go on and on and on about Black folks all over outside of African of the African American tradition that will speak to that. And I like the fact that we tell African American stories. I like the fact that we tell stories of people from Africa as well. And I need to send you this. If y'all haven't watched the interview of that Chance the Rapper did on the Breakfast Club.
I heard about that interview. I need to go watch that. I heard it was pretty good.
He did it, and he had just got back from Ghana. And
really?
Just blew my mind, bro.
Really?
Blew his perspective was it literally made me want to, after the interview was done, it made me want to say, I'm gone. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. I'm gone.
Is that right?
Pack up everything.
I gotta tip my hat to Ghana, man. What?
It was so good. And one of the things he talked about was and I'm gonna get back so we can close up. But one of the things he talked about was, and I didn't even know this, he said when he went to Ghana, he heard about Kwame Nkrumah. And he had never knew about Kwame Nkrumah, who was the who was the person who led Ghana into its independence back in the 50s, before it was called the Gold Coast, and gave Ghana back its original name. And so he talked about it, but he said what was interesting about Kwame Nkrumah was that he was born right in Ghana. He was educated, and when he came over to the United States, he decided to attend a historically Black college. I don't know if he went to Howard or which one.
That's so wild.
But he went to a HBCU. And when he came to an HBCU, that's where he learned about the teachings of Marcus Garvey. And Black nationalism, and and self-determination and independence. And so he threw himself into this philosophy, and then he took that philosophy, went back to Ghana, and that was when he started that whole movement that led to Ghana's independence. And it is because of what Kwame Nkrumah not only instilled in the consciousness of the people, but he also politicized it. He created institutions based on this independence. I think he said something, and don't quote me, but he said Ghana, I think, is the only African country or West African country that has literally a political office. It's like the office of Black independence. Like he's institutionalizing
so
Black people having their own. We ain't just teaching it. We ain't just preaching it. We ain't just rapping about it. No, this is a part of our politics. And that is the reason why Ghana is in the place that it's in today. That's why they literally call it the window to Africa.
Wow.
Like in order for you to get in, like it is the gateway,
so
the doorway to Africa.
Right.
And it is because this black man and what he did and what he learned at HBCUs here and took back and infuse it into the culture and into the politics and into the economics of his people. That is the reason why Ghana is what it is today, and why generally when African Americans or people across the diaspora are wanting to go back to Africa,
they want to go to Ghana.
They want to go to Ghana. And it's easy.
Right.
It's one of the easiest places to go if you want to go to Africa.
Well, they've been intentional. They've really set it up to make it easy to do that. They've been very explicit about that.
Yes.
And then they are the ones who are the initiative of the whole year of return. And building, saying, hey, this is going to be a home for the diaspora. You guys can come here and build and help build our. I'm just like shocked when I hear see it. I'm like, wow, this is fantastic.
Yeah, I have a friend now who is moving there, and she's moving there with her daughter. She got a job there.
I know a lot of people trying to move out. I know a lot of people trying to move. Even Stevie Wonder about to move out there, trying to move out there.
Stevie Wonder, Dave
he said it. It's like, wow.
And I'm like, but I'm thinking about it as we're talking about this kind of diasporic view of like film, and I'm thinking like it's so interesting how the stories of literally 3 different parts of the diaspora came together to result in what Ghana is.
Wow.
You have this African man coming to an African American institution.
Wow. It's giving me chills.
Philosophy from a Caribbean man.
Right.
And it all came together to bring us back to
Africa. Yeah.
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
Crazy. That's crazy.
I think it's so beautiful when and so what Charlamagne asked Chance the Rapper, he said, he was really excited and inspired, and he said, are you saying that all of us need to go back to Africa? Right. And he said, well, I do think that Africa should be our home base. I do think that as Black people, we need a home base. But I don't know if everyone's
not right.
I think we need place all over.
Our
space all over. All over the world.
I love this. I love this. What I mean? I love it. Love it.
But at the same time, I do think that it is necessary to have a home base, a place where we can go back to when we need to, just like every other culture has. I do think we need to invest in Africa. I do think that we need to, in particularly in West Africa or in Ghana, I do think that we need to build there. I do think that we need to have an identity kind of connection there. But maybe we all don't need to move there, right? So I mean, it was a very, very, very interesting conversation. I'm
definitely going to go watch that. Definitely going to watch that.
Please.
That sounds fantastic. Yeah, I mean, there's so. I mean, this goes back to what I was saying about the films. About like seeing some of the films that have some of these struggle aspects to their narratives, is that the consciousness that it gives you. Because really, if you really look at it, like Black people everywhere are rebuilding. We are coming out of a period of trauma.
That's right.
A period. This is across the board. Sub-Saharan South Africa and beyond. Right. The slave trade, the fact that we're all over the place, is a trauma to the continent of Africa. That's a major trauma to the continent right there. Then you have that came right after that. As soon as that was done, there was colonialism, where they went and they took the power there. And then all the different nations whether we're in Brazil, in the Caribbean, in Central America, here in the United States. All of these things, we've all experienced various types of traumas there, and we're still trying to build, whether our nations are still trying to build all of these things. And, this is where we need the collective wisdom, consciousness of what we've gone through and these lessons that we've taken from our various places to really get to where we need to be, to really get to the fact that we're a whole person, wherever we are, whether it is saying that we're reconnecting with the African identity, or wherever new identities that we've built since then, to really become whole people, to really become, because you look at even in Africa right now, in certain places, like in my father's country, skin bleaching projects are flying off the shelves. In places of the Caribbean, skin bleaching are flying off the shelves. Natural hair is not doesn't really take. Just from what I've seen, natural hair is not really much of a thing in certain places in Africa. Like people have to wear all these different things to kind of Europeanize how their styles look. Right. And I think that this is where we can really do help with healing ourselves from the trauma that we've had from being dehumanized, from not having our history taught, and really coming into the place where we're whole and healed and confident and feel like we belong and have some leverage, you know. You know, when we're working in our various places, but it's like, well, if this doesn't work out, some of us have a way of dealing with things because we got backup. We have a safety net here and there, and it provides some leverage and some alternatives as well. So I think I'm definitely into whatever Chance was talking about, that sort of that Pan-African consciousness there. That I think that's going to be really useful for us. But you know, man, I wanted to. I know we're going to close up, but one thing I want to say about the Woman King is, as I was reading it, I just saw in that story how like this same connection between all these various things. What I realized is that what I learned when I was reading about the kingdom that was in there is that the king, it's like so wild, because the king that they're actually depicting in there, the brother from Star Wars is playing it.
He's the king, yeah.
That same king was like a big player in the slave trade at one point. Like he was raiding African nations and tribes and around him and rounded them up and selling them to like a lot of places like in Brazil that were still like taking slaves, taking enslaved people. And he was selling them to kind of like stay in power because he was fighting all these other kingdoms. He had like all these rival kingdoms. And there was actually a kingdom that he was actually like, from what I read, which is so wild, that was actually like a place that African like, tribes and people could go to find refuge from slave raiders. And so he was like battling he had like pressure from some of these kingdoms from this slave trade thing. And I learned, this was so wild. He stopped it. He was forced to stop it for a while, because, there was pressure from African nations and from Great Britain to stop like selling people off. This is the same king that they're depicting. Like, this is so in this movie, like as the protagonist. For a little bit, he resumed it because his country came under a whole lot of pressure. And that same king and his kingdom and his operation, that he resumed it for like a couple of years. And the Clotilda, you know the Clotilda, right? The Clotilda, the last slave ship that came to the United States, the Clotilda, you know what I'm talking about? I know someone. If anyone watching this needs to go look this up, the Clotilda. This is the last slave ship to arrive in America. And what's the name of the author that did those? Zora Neale Hurston did a write-up from one of the
but Barracoon, I think it was, or something like that. I think it was called, I think so. Barracoon, but yeah, I did read that book. I didn't know the name of the ship was the Clotilda, but yeah.
So the Clotilda that brought the last shipment of enslaved people from Africa to America came from that same king that they're depicting in this during that little year or two that he resumed his so that group, and so they came in during that year, was like, I think it was like 1856 or something like that. He resumed it for like a couple of years in that space, and then he had to shut it back down. But that group was smuggled from his kingdom, directly from his kingdom, to the United States. What was so wild is the group that he picked. Because the Dahomey Kingdom is in present day Benin, but he actually had gotten the people that overwhelmingly were on the Clotilda were Yoruba people, which was a huge thing for me because my pops is from Nigeria and he's Yoruba, and so these people that he came were Yoruba people. And after they were emancipated, because they worked, I don't know, for however many years, maybe 10, 15 years, they were enslaved and, sold about. But after they were emancipated, they actually moved into what's present day Mobile and started a community there. And they spoke Yoruba in that community up until the 1950s.
What?
It's so wild. They were speaking Yoruba up until the 1950s.
In Mobile, Alabama?
In Mobile, Alabama, they were still speaking Yoruba out there because it was from those enslaved people that came. But there were some other people that were smuggled in, and they all descended on Mobile. And they were in there, and up until the 1950s, they were speaking the Yoruba language as the official language there in that community.
Wow.
It's so crazy. Yeah, it's so wild. It's so wild. Yeah.
So now that you mention it, and I think that's an important part of, but that was also why I had an issue with Black Panther. One of my biggest issues with Black Panther, I know you you said you wanted to hear me say about it earlier, is it dealt more with the intra conflict, intra-racial, intracultural conflict within Wakanda and its surrounding nations, as opposed to the inter-conflict between Wakanda and the powers outside.
The colonial powers. Yes.
Yeah. And so I didn't really. So that's why I'm wondering. I'm kind of wondering. Okay, well, were they setting that up for Black Panther too? I'm not sure. But so that's what I'm trying to figure out with this with the Woman King. You're right. You have these African, and Chancellor Williams talks about it in The Destruction of Black Civilization, that the lack of unity among African people was a large reason why the slave trade continued. Because they didn't all see each other as one. They didn't have this Pan-African view like we do now. Which, I mean, no, there was no such thing as race. Europeans didn't have a
I mean, Irish. I mean, we had Braveheart. Braveheart is the same thing, right? Like
Braveheart is a great example, right? They didn't look at each other as white people fighting white people. It was the Irish fighting
Scottish version,
Scottish Irish, But the difference is, for Black people, the result of it led to this, like you said, like the trauma of the slave trade, the trauma of slavery, and so the results were much more deleterious for us. So I'm interested to see which part are they going to depict in this film. Are they going to depict, this Woman King fighting the Europeans, or is it going to be again this internal fighting between the African kingdom of Dahomey and maybe the neighboring nations, right? So I'm actually interested to see that. But I didn't know all that other stuff you were talking about.
It's so fascinating, man. I was like, this is so wild, man. Like it's so wild, man, that just to see how that played out in history, in some place in Mobile. I used to drive down to Mobile because my homies was out there. And so just to think that there was a community out there that was directly started from enslaved people that had lived on continental Africa and had actually survived through, the emancipation and the Civil War and all of that is just truly incredible. I mean,
But now that you mention that, that's so interesting. Not because all kinds of stuff are coming to my head now, but I'm thinking Mobile is very close to New Orleans. And New Orleans is very what's going on with my light?
There you go.
All right, there we go.
New
Orleans is common and is popular for being one of those first original kind of Black, having that independent Black culture, right? Independent African culture. Where there's
a lot of African elements in New Orleans culture that are very heavy.
Yes, absolutely. Of course, people liken it to voodoo and all that. But there's a lot of that there, and obviously, even back in slavery, the first kind of Black middle class. Large Black middle class, in the South, was in New Orleans, and I'm wondering if that comes from some
of that influence.
I'm wondering if some of those people from Mobile, probably left there, gravitated to New Orleans because it's close to the water and all that kind of stuff, and there began to build up this kind of first, Black, essentially independent Black community, and then of course after that you got Harlem and DC, all Atlanta and all these different places where you have these like black meccas. But New Orleans was kind of like the first one. And so I'm wondering if there's a connection between that. Now that you say that, I'm wondering if there's a connection between it. Yeah.
That's the reason why we need like 1 million more movies. Like we don't need the one. Give us all of them. We need to hear all of it and just provide that. I mean, the history is so rich and so deep and so incredible. Yeah. And when you're able to see all of that and to make all those connections, I mean, I think about what that's going to do for your confidence, for how you see your world. And if the world could see that, how the world could see us, the respect that it needs to give to the communities and what we've been through, and the resilience and the ingenuity, and the richness of the culture, the diversity of it. Yeah. I mean, there's so much there to explore, man. And so I'm glad that the Woman King is, even though it's a little bit problematic in some places, I'm glad that they're telling the story, and hopefully we get 10, 12, 1 million more next year.
Absolutely. Right. Regardless of it, man, I definitely think we should go, like you said, go support it. Go, support the good sister Viola Davis. I need to read her autobiography. So her book is incredible.
Is that right? Really?
Yes.
I mean, she's such an incredible woman. Like it's just, she is just a powerhouse, man. Yes. A powerhouse.
I think that's the next bio I'm gonna read. But definitely. Thank y'all for listening. If y'all still tuned in, check it out. Check out The Woman King. Coming real soon. And hopefully, you watch this either before or after, and it gives you kind of a sense of the importance of Black films, Black representation in films, and the diversity of our films. Like you said, like not just biopics or hip hop movies, but also the Black epics. Our presence in history as well as our presence in the present,
and some fiction.
Black Panther, our presence in fiction and in future
and lore.
All over that. All over that. So
amen.
It is super important, man. So definitely y'all check it out. Yo, Steve, as always. Incredible conversation.
Likewise, my man.
My brother.
I feel so much smarter, man, after this podcast. I feel like I deserve a degree or certificate at least.
Listen, I'm sitting here listening to this story you telling about the history of this, all that stuff. I had no idea, man. So I'm definitely about to be all on my life. I need to get some work done, but I'm probably gonna spend the whole afternoon researching everything you just said. Like, yo, I gotta find out more about this. But thank you again, man. We appreciate you taking the time. We know you're a busy guy.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me on, my brother.
Get ready for this wedding and the family, man. Again, congratulations to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I'm saying, as now you have your own Woman King.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct.
Congratulations, man. So,
all right, my brother, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. It's been another episode, y'all. Street Academy Podcast, where we keep one foot in the academy and one foot in the streets eats. Please follow us at Street Academy Podcast on IG. You could also subscribe on YouTube, Street Academy Podcast. You can check out all of our many episodes, or you can listen to this wherever you get your podcast. That's where we are. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Peace. That got their feet upon the neck of the haters, the game and the devil like came in.